So yeah, like I was saying, we've been part of St. Bart's for over 10 years now. We joined the church when my son Hans was a year old. And we've had the pleasure of growing in this church and meeting many really great people. So I wanted to talk to you today about some health and wellness things that are taking place this summer at St. Bart's this month and throughout the summer. And I also wanted to share some health tips. I know there was a lot of anxiety through the pandemic on what we can do for ourselves. A lot of people just had questions on how do we get through it. So I want to try to give you some information and empower you in that. I'm a chiropractor and nutritionist, and I practice in West Dallas. And as a chiropractor, I practice holistic health, which means that we think that the body is more than just a sum of its parts, and that the systems of the body work together in conjunction and can affect one another. So when we look at a person, we are looking at their structure. There's the alignment aspect of it, but we're also considering their chemical and psychological health and how those stresses can affect the body as well. So during the pandemic, I saw people of all ages. My youngest patient was 3 days old, and my oldest was 90 years old. And because of that, I got to see how everyone was faring through those age groups. And some of those people were in very robust health, and some of them were dealing with things like cancer or autoimmune disorders, diabetes, heart disease, or other conditions that we know make people more susceptible to more severe COVID reactions or even hospitalization. So throughout the pandemic, my messaging to my patients stayed exactly the same. And that was that your underlying health is important, and you have to work on your underlying health. And most of the conditions that were allowing people to enter the hospital were states of health that are reversible. They're chronic conditions that you can prevent, or even when you're in that state, you can reverse that state and improve your health. So sadly, as an American culture, we don't have a very healthy dietary system in place. So the standard American diet, or as nutritionists call it, the SAD diet, causes inflammation and disease. And if you're eating the standard American diet, you're going to have standard American diseases. And the standard American diseases set you up for more severe infections and not handling viruses well. So as we begin to emerge from the pandemic and start kind of quasi-normal life, what should we be doing in order to keep ourselves in good health or return to a more robust state of health? So here's some general things I want to share with you. The first thing is to protect your mental health. So there was a lot of, like I said, a lot of anxiety throughout the pandemic. People didn't know what to do. There weren't any answers. No one had been through this before. So for me personally, that meant that I needed to disconnect from screens to allow my brain to just get off that blue light and relax, to get off social media, to give myself a break from news broadcasts and not fill yourself with those things, those fearful messages. Also, grounding myself was really important. So some ways you can do that would be obviously through prayer, taking a walk in nature, doing yoga, meditation. There are lots of ways that you can do that. If you Google grounding, drumming, there's lots of things that can fit a lot of different people. And for some people, for the extroverts out there, that means actually getting together with people and seeing your friends and being around people. The second thing I would say is reduce your inflammation. So inflammation is the cause of disease and chronic illness, and it can happen in a variety of ways, but we need to think about the ways that we can control inflammation in our lives. So that would be, you can work on reducing psychological stress through grounding techniques. You can work on having an anti-inflammatory diet, so getting away from the standard American diet. And an anti-inflammatory diet would be more like very little bread, pasta, or no bread or pasta, baked goods, dairy, sugar, packaged foods. Anti-inflammatory diet is rich in vegetables, so many different types of vegetables, as well as getting lots of vegetables in your day, so at least 5 servings of vegetables. So when you're having a meal, half of your plate should be vegetables, and then the rest is proteins and fruits and fats. Getting protein in your diet and the amount that you need depends on your age and your weight. And small amounts of healthy fats and fruits. So for fruits, I shoot for 3 servings or less a day because of the sugar content in the fruit, although they are giving you vitamins. The other thing is going along with your diet is your water consumption. So that was one of the things mentioned. I'll get to this in a minute, but mentioned on here. You want to shoot for half your body weight in ounces of water. So if you're a 150-pound person, you want to have 75 ounces of water a day. And a lot of us are just chronically dehydrated. So if we drink more water, we're flushing toxins from our body, and we're also not going to overeat because we're filling our body with fluids that we need. The best way to make sure you're getting enough water throughout the day is to have a bottle container that you want to be drinking out of. Know that is 20 ounces, 24 ounces, and think, okay, I have to fill that up this many times a day in order to reach that goal. And some people need a straw in their cup, some people don't. Whatever the trick is for you, just stick to that and shoot for that goal. But when people come in with musculoskeletal aches and pains, that's the first thing I tell them, is make sure you're getting enough water, because your muscles just can't really have the right tone if they're not getting it. The third thing would be exercise. So exercise is great for your brain and your body, and our bodies were made to move. So if you're someone who's at a desk all day, whether you're working from home or at the office, you need to allow yourself breaks to get up and stretch and move and give your body what it needs. Some people may be able to engage in more moderate or aggressive forms of exercise. For some people, that's going to be Tai Chi or yoga or stretching. And all of that is okay. We just want to move. And that's where Let's Move May is really coming from, is getting that aspect into our lives and exercising as a community. And then from a more pandemic point of view, we want to continue to support our immune systems as we come out of the pandemic. And, as we hear cases are kind of rising again, and in the fall, they'll probably rise again, and it's always going to be here. And we just need to do these things to support our bodies. So some things I'd recommend would be vitamin D, zinc, echinacea, a broad spectrum probiotic, and fish oil. So I'll break that down a little bit. Vitamin D is not really a vitamin. It's not really a mineral. It's a hormone precursor, and it is involved with basically every system of the body. So as Wisconsinites, we don't get much sunlight, or as we all know. and we get our sunshine, 3 months out of the year, really. So unless you're a farmer or a landscaper or someone who's out in the sun during those summer months, you're probably vitamin D deficient. And that's a test that you can have your healthcare provider do for you. You just add it onto your annual labs, and they can get that number. The thing to be aware of is that number has a wide range. It's from 30 to 100 nanograms per milliliter, and you really want that range to be 60 to 80. So that's what you want to key on, 60 to 80. That's where you're going to find optimal health. So you might be test normal at 30 nanograms per milliliter, but if you're at 30 and you're a woman, our bodies use so much vitamin D, you may develop thyroid problems when you're in your 20s or 30s, or you may end up with osteopenia when you're in your 50s and osteoporosis in 70s and 80s. So it's really important to have that vitamin D because you need it for calcium absorption and thyroid function and, like I said, many, many things in the body. So make sure that that's in good order. The second thing, zinc, is something that we can take a little bit of daily. And with all the viruses going around, taking a little bit every day isn't a bad idea. And that's also something that you can have your healthcare provider check for you so that do I have optimal zinc in my body? Echinacea, otherwise known as purple coneflower. We see that all over in Wisconsin. It's very good for the immune system, the respiratory tract, the endocannabinoid system. So, we hear there's a lot of buzz about THC. Actually, echinacea can do some of that for you, give you a sense of well-being. But very good for supporting the immune system from viruses and supporting the respiratory system. So for COVID in particular, that's been a mainstay for my patients. A broad spectrum probiotic is something everyone should be on because we don't get enough probiotic in our diet unless you're eating kefir and sauerkraut and kimchi every day. We're not typically getting that. And then fish oil. Fish oil is really great for the brain, the eyes, the heart, and it's anti-inflammatory because there's omega-3 fatty acids in it. So those are some things that I would suggest adding to your daily regimen if you're not already doing them. So sometimes when we know all of this, we know exactly what we have to do. Maybe everything on that list was like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. I know I should do that. Well, sometimes we can't actually make ourselves do it, right? And I'm sure we've all run into that. And I go through this a lot with the people that I see and even in my own life. And, we have to ask ourselves, why? Why is it that you can't pull the trigger and do the things that you know you should do for yourself? And what I've found from working with people is that a lot of it comes down to, do people think that they are worthy of good health and worthy of loving themselves? And that might be an idea that you don't think your doctor is going to address with you, but it's something that we need to think about. And I'm really grateful to be able to speak with this group today because as a Christian, we know that believing in God means that we are never alone. We're always loved. We're always worthy of God's love. So, we don't have to worry about that. Even when you feel alone in your darkest moment, you're never really alone. And more specifically, something that I've gotten from my time at St. Bart's has been, it's a community there that raises people up. We love one another for who we are. Every voice is important. In my experience, growing up as a Catholic, there was a part of the Mass where we always said, there was a phrase, and it went, "Lord, I am not worthy to receive you, but only say the word and I shall be healed." And when you say that every day, every week of your life, from infancy to the grave, over time, you may actually believe it. And it's simply not true. We all are worthy. And even though that may not be what that phrase means, that saying that in community with that energy all around you can create that feeling that you're not worthy for whatever reason, even if you don't have other things affecting your life. So I have a profound appreciation for our service and our community, and that we are a group that brings people together and values each person as a whole. And that's really where we're going with Let's Move May. We want to bring people together on a different level. St. Bart's is, for us, for my family, has never really been about just the church or just religion. There's always been another thing pulling us together. And I think as a member of the church, what I've seen is that that's what's helped us persevere through these several years of not just the pandemic, but different priests and temporary priests, and trying to just keep going. So we're going to continue to try to build on that and create a community that comes together for a variety of reasons. Did you want me to go through some of these things? Yeah. Okay. All right. So things that we already do in our church to help people come together would be like our yoga classes. Yeah. Yeah, if you'd like to hand those out, that'd be great. So my boys are going to come around and we're going to go through this Let's Move May schedule. But also, like I said, some things that the church is already doing are our yoga classes on Tuesdays at 4:15, Zumba on Thursdays at 6 p.m. This afternoon, it's going to be a little chilly, but we're going to do a hike at Simmons Woods, and thankfully it's in the woods, so it should block us from the wind. But we want to get out there and do some things together to bring exercise and well-being into our lives. May 22nd, we're going to do a hike at Holy Hill. Sorry, I'll go back. At Simmons Woods, we're going to meet at 1:30. So we'll have time to change clothes and get lunch, and then we'll meet there. It's off of Cecilia Drive in Pewaukee, off of Capitol. May 22nd, we're going to meet at Holy Hill around 2:30 for a hike. We got different coffee hour offerings throughout the month. And so we'll have different food choices and then other messages throughout the month as well. In early August, we're going to have hopefully an annual event, but the first of its kind here at St. Bart's. We're going to offer a super sprint triathlon. It'll be a 200-meter swim, a 10K bike, and a 2.5-kilometer run. It's not going to be a competitive race. It's going to be more like it's just goes along with everything we're doing here. It's a supportive group endeavor. So we're going to swim. We're going to make sure everyone gets out of the water okay. Then we're going to get on our bikes and we're going to start the bike. When everyone's finished, we'll start our walk or run. And in June and July, Andy and I are going to host a group open swim and a group bike somewhere. Maybe Pewaukee Lake, maybe somewhere else. But we'll let you know on the details of that. So there's a lot of stuff coming up and we're really excited about it. And we really hope that you get the word out to people who may not be here today and invite them along. And hopefully we can build health together and become a healthier community. Thank you.